Presented by The Hockey Shop. Source for Sports Surrey, thehockeyshop.com. This is a special edition of In Goal Radio, the podcast. We spoke to Alfie Michaud on the day of Truth and Reconciliation, and we are going to visit that subject. And Kevin Woodley has a very well thought out, difficult conversation that travels through a couple of sensitive subjects, but subject matter that, quite frankly, needs to be discussed. And we do it in a fashion that is true to form, involves some hockey, involves some goaltending, but also delves into an area of real life and is something that is different for us, but is also an area that we thought certainly deserved some time on this podcast. We'll get to the feature interview brought to you by Sense Arena in just a little bit as we bring in the co-founders of In Goal Radio, In Goal Magazine, David Hutchison and Kevin Woodley. Hello, gentlemen.
Good morning, Darren.
How are we?
I'm doing great. And before we get into the podcast, just a big stick tap to one of our own, and Maddie Hutchison. How about the accomplishment of your little one, who's not so little anymore? There's some great pictures on the In Goal social media sites, just of a young Maddie when he was just an up and comer, enjoying the initial journeys of his goaltending, and now at the just a veteran age of 14, he's making a little personal history. What do you think of it? And tell us the story.
Well, it was an incredible week, and it's been an incredible summer, really. As you alluded to, and as Kevin so kindly put up on our social media channels to congratulate Matty, he, at age 14, made his junior A debut in the BCHL with the Cowichan Capitals, a team he's affiliated with now for the season and presumably going forward. And, you know, that's not something that happens too often for a 14-year-old goaltender, obviously. He's not old enough to play in the league yet. That's why he's only affiliated. It was a preseason game. But it was a pretty challenging preseason game. Quite often, we actually knew that this opportunity was going to come up, or at least had expected it would come up. However, we assumed it would be the first exhibition game of the season, you know, when all the prospects are run out and so on. But at Matty's request, actually, the team delayed the start a little while because he wanted to play against his hometown Nanaimo Clippers. And he knows a few of the players on the team, including the starting goaltender who lives with us. So it was a fun little circle there. And the opportunity for him to play was just so exciting for us. It's one of those moments, I've only had it a couple of times, where I'm putting him into something that I knew he wanted to do very badly, but I was somewhat terrified because just didn't know how it would go. I mean, it's one thing to have some experience in camp where you're facing prospects that would like to make a team, but it's obviously a whole new level when you hit the game and you're with the guys who are going to be on the roster. And it was obviously the best hockey he'd ever faced in his life. And so, yeah, I was kind of terrified because it's the kind of thing that could go sideways, or it could go really, really well for him. And it did go really well. Got the win. Still the team's only win of the preseason. And the boys in front of him just worked their tails off in the sort of second half of the game to lock it right down. And net empty. He had to make a couple of good saves and finished it off. So it's been a wild ride. It's been super, super exciting for him and for us, and lots of people reaching out, and thank you to everybody who did.
Woody, you've followed this journey for the last little bit as well. Give me your thoughts.
I just had fun on the social media page, having Hutch and digging through all the old photos we had. Like, Maddie's sort of tested like youth gear from like the age of like 5 or 6 for us. So, and now we got to order it in larger sizes so he can test it because he's bigger than all of us. So a few comments from other guys around, like Eddie Lack seeing the social media post and saying that he felt old, and being able to respond with a picture of him on one knee and Maddie was just as tall as him when he's basically sitting down as like a 7 or 8 year old on the ice together. Yeah, you are old, Eddie, because we all feel old here. So pretty cool. Kid's been chirping me since he was probably 7 about me not being 6 feet. Now he's 6 feet 2. I look up to him. Pretty cool to, he's part of the In Goal family. And so, I maybe wasn't losing sleep like Papa Hutch was over there. but I was nervous for him from a distance. Found a way to tune in and watch the game myself through Hockey TV, and was excited the whole way. Edge of my seat as he stopped 18-19 in the first period. Talk about induction by fire. And then, as Hutch said, the team settled down in front of him. And it was just, I don't know, it was just fun, man. It was fun. That was the closest I will ever get to be to feeling like a hockey parent. And it was nerve-wracking even here. I actually was pacing in the office when there were whistles or between periods. My wife's like, what are you watching? What are you watching down there? I'm like, I'm watching. I just can't play first game in the BCHL. I can't come up. I gotta watch. And like, no breaks. Had to watch it right to the end. And then I think she knew the game was over, but I actually had missed a bit of the first period. But I had to go back and watch it. I was just excited for him. So it was awesome. It was great. And what a job to do that at 14. No, I wouldn't have been mature enough to handle that situation. So a lot of admiration from over here that that he was able to manage it all. And like everything I've seen with Maddie, again, sort of from a distance, but living it through Hutch, vicariously and through conversations. Just the water off a duck's back mentality in terms of how cool and calm he is amidst situations that would make most of us a lot more nervous is kind of fun to watch as well. And bodes well for the future too, although we're not getting ahead of ourselves. Just enjoy the moment, right? That's what they say.
I think that's the closest that Jerry Seinfeld will get to being a hockey dad too. I thought that was a pretty good impersonation that you just rang out there, whether it was purposeful or not. Hey, Hutch, a couple of questions, more on the parent side of it. What was the ride to the rink like? What did you guys talk about? And if you can remember any of that, and what was the drive home like? And following up on that, the in between. How did you watch the game? Did you watch it at the lonely end of the rink, as our good friend Gord Downey sang about, or did you watch it normally?
Well, you're alluding obviously to Brian DeCourt's interview from last week and touching a lot of the great goalie parent advice that he gave. Interestingly, just as an aside, guys, I also spent the week, though not at this game, working with Brian's new app, SIG Game Day, and really love that. But we can get to that a little bit later. So the ride to the rink was exactly the same as it is for everything else we ever do. I did a little bit of a piece for In Goal Parents a while ago, and I said, if we want kids to be mentally strong and to treat every game like it's just any other game, then we need to do the same for them. So you can't be going to them at 9:00 at night saying you need to get to bed early because it's a big day tomorrow. You can't have a special meal because it's an exciting game tomorrow. Everything has to be, in my mind, exactly the same. So we treated it exactly the same as any other day he's driving down to the rink. And I think Matty slept probably most of the way because his team plays about an hour south of us. And then I just wished him well, and he went into the rink and actually had a great chat with the opposing coach, who I know pretty well as Matty was in the rink getting ready. And it wasn't until about then that for me the nerves set in. I was obviously in the back of my mind, I was a little worried, but that's when I started to feel sick, like I haven't felt in a very long time. Watch the game from the middle of the ice and the top row so that I can see both goaltenders and get a real good clear view. Had some family and friends there. A couple of Matty's teammates came down. But it was interesting, Kevin described pacing around, because I was absolutely pacing around every whistle once it looked like things were starting to go really well for the team. And you just wanted it to carry on. And you knew you could feel the tension. It was really, really exciting. And then on the way home, I waited an awful long time. I guess he was probably in the dressing room celebrating with teammates. And then we just had a lot of good chats. He just described the whole experience to me, and he had told me that he doesn't really get nervous before games until the coach starts speaking just before they go on the ice. And I said, well, what was it like? And he said, actually, I didn't feel nervous the entire time. It just felt like any other game, and I was just out there having a really good time. And so I guess mission accomplished, as Woody said. I think that is his strongest point, is his mental game. Would say, though, Woody said he's been doing this from a distance. It's not always from a distance. I think Matty's second greatest strength after his mental game is how quickly he learns and can incorporate new knowledge into his game. And quite often that does come from Woody, who watched him practice one day, having a little trouble with a cross ice play. And next thing you know, we were having lunch, and there's Woody on his knees in the restaurant, demonstrating head trajectory and various other important techniques that come into play for this specific situation. There was about 20 minutes of Woody in the demonstrating elite goaltending technique for everybody in this local restaurant, and we had a blast. And quite honestly, Matty incorporated it the next day into his game, and it stayed. So Uncle Woody has had a big effect on his game too.
I'm just here to get chirped.
What's that?
I said I'm just here to get chirped by the kid. Like, he's been bugging me about my, like, honest to God, he has been politely, but also with a good degree of humor, chirping me about not actually being 6 feet tall for like the last 6 or 7 years. And it was all fun and games, and I took it real well until he passed me on the height chart, and is now like 3 inches taller than me. And so, yeah, I'm just here for the chirps.
Maddie's going to take note that you just said that he's 3 inches taller than you, and you said he's 6'2". So do the math, folks.
I've admitted that I'm shrinking.
I want to throw this at the two of you, and I ask this with all due respect. He plays at 14 in the exhibition game. Is this a good example, though, where there are age restrictions in being able to play at this level? Like, he obviously is a very accomplished and ahead of his curve for his age.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's no age restrictions and he was able to play, would that be the best thing for him? I'm curious from a parent's point of view, and then from somebody who's watching from a very close distance, but not actually related to the development. Go ahead first, Papa.
Yeah, well, the first thing I'd say is, in this specific case, I'd be okay with anything because I trust the people involved. James Gartner is the goaltending coach with the Cowichan Capitals, has become a good friend and trusted mentor to Maddie, and head coach and GM Brian Passmore. We have Matthew with Cowichan because we believe in those two guys and we trust them. And as I said, I was a little bit terrified about the game, but James believed in him and knew that he could do it. And so I just had to rely on that. So in that case, I feel really good about it. And if they felt that he was ready to spend the season with the team and it was allowed, then I would go ahead and do that. So I can't really comment about every situation. For me, it's a very personal one, and it's about the individuals involved. I could imagine a situation where a kid could get pinned to the end of the bench, and maybe it's not a great thing. I've wrestled with this one for his whole life because, we're all under these pressures of do you stay with the local hometown team? Do you move them away somewhere to a big program and get them better levels of competition? Is it okay to be on a good team? Is it okay to be on not a good team? I'm not sure I'll ever know the answer. I do know that the experience practicing with the team, which he'll get this year quite a bit, is invaluable. And even if you were with a team and didn't get 40 games in a season, I still think it could be a valuable experience because, the reality is the league he's playing in this year, guys, he's not going to get 20 games. His team will get more, but, he'll get roughly 20, probably fewer.
And what level is that? Just for...
so it's like U18 AAA. It's...
Okay.
Just, major midget, they used to call it here. I'd love for him to be able to have a little bit more opportunity. At his age, he could play up to 5 regular season games in the league, and then he could join the team when his season is done. Whether they'll think he's ready for that and whether that happens, who knows? But I do think we have to be really careful with kids' development and not put them in a place they're not ready to succeed, or at least get close to the level they'd like to be. But yeah, for me, it's trusting the individuals involved.
Well said. And I asked that also maturity-wise, 14-year-olds with 20-year-olds, like there's that side of it off the ice as well. Woody, you're at arm's length to this, or within arm's length of this?
I think I'm too far detached from youth hockey. I think Hutch's answer was perfect. I don't know that I'd have a better answer than that. I'd imagine it would all involve that trust level. And I think the reason those rules probably are in place is because not everyone has the ability to build those relationships, or kids get put into situations where it's outside of a relationship that's strong and you don't know who to trust. And so I think that it's probably, the safe decision, in terms of having a rule, is to remove that possibility of being the 15-year-old that just spends the whole season on the bench or is taken out of school and doesn't get the opportunity. I really don't have a better answer than the one that Hutch gave. And it's interesting. I mean, we looked back, right? Like, this is Maddie's 15-year-old season. He's 14 now when he got the exhibition game, but it's his 15-year-old season. Like, Dan Blackburn spent an entire season in the AJ and the Alberta Junior Hockey League at 14 and 15. So obviously the rules change, but it's changed for a reason. For every Dan Blackburn, there's probably a whole bunch of kids we can't name that had a different experience. And maybe the reason we can't name them is that experience contributed to them not reaching their potential. So rules are usually there for a reason, and you got to trust them. Probably because not every parent, not every young goalie or young player gets in a situation where they, can trust the people around them the way Hutch has built that trust with the people in Cowichan.
The one thing I would add, guys, is Darren, you brought up maturity, and there's two things that have really helped him get ready, I think, for this and to be with kids, as you mentioned, quite a bit older than him. And one is we've billeted players for years. And so he's been surrounded by guys that play at this level for years, all fantastic young men that have lived in our home and been brothers to him. And so I think he's become a little bit familiar with the situation. He's practiced with the Nanaimo Clippers as a 12-year-old, got to know a bunch of the guys. So, and then the other piece was he's been going to Eli Wilson's camps every summer for years. And thanks to my role in helping Eli and in goal, he's been working with WHL players and shooters since he was about 11 years old. And he just sort of grew up to think that I'm just one of them and I'm going to act like them. And that's the only way to be. And so I think whether you get the opportunity to spend time with older players in another setting, or you want to take a young man into your home as a billet, I think those are just opportunities for your kids to see what the next level is like and to sort of assume that's where they're going and learn to live that way.
I'm just happy that your billet this year is 6'8", so Maddie can get a taste of what it's like to be the small one.
Oh yeah, he was sour about that.
Did he save the puck? Did he keep anything from the game?
Do you know what? He didn't get a puck. I said, oh, did you take so long because the guys were giving you a game puck and a little photo? He's like, no, the puck was at the other end of the ice. I totally planned if it came to my end, I was going to get it, but I don't even know what happened to it. But credit to the team. They let him back up the next game, which was in his hometown here in Nanaimo, and they made him read out the lineup for the whole team that night. So that was kind of fun too.
That's awesome. And another bit of this journey that he's been on has been the support of the Hockey Shop, Hockey Shop Source for Sports Surrey, providing all the assistance as we continue from 14 on.
And before Kevin gets to singing the praises of the Hockey Shop, I have to say, Maddie was having trouble with his skates about 4 days ago. We tried a million different things, and the only solution was phoning Cam, who sent him over the new Bauer Pulse TI blades that Cecil had profiled, and to hear Maddie describe the exact differences in how they felt on the ice. One, tells you why he's been testing with us for so long, and two, tells us why you shop at the Hockey Shop. So thanks to those guys for helping him get ready for the game as well.
And it's not just the fact that they had the latest steel, the Bauer titanium coated steel that we profiled, pardon the pun, here at on the In Goal Radio podcast recently, but the expertise to know what profile, what custom radius they should put on them. Cam with a good recommendation for a good goalie profile. Cecil, putting it on perfectly before he ships them over sharp for you guys to get into a game. And to me, that's a perfect anecdote for why we shop at the Hockey Shop and thehockeyshop.com. It's not just about having the latest equipment. It's about knowing how that equipment will perform for you, whether it's custom steel, whether it's the right fit in skates, getting them baked so they're soft and wrapped around your foot properly before you leave the store, whether it's a set of pads, the right size chest protector, pants that work with that chest protector, a custom stick, or just something off the rack. The Hockey Shop and the staff, Cam and his crew, will make sure that you get not just the best gear, but the best gear for you and your game so you can play your best and enjoy the sport, enjoy the position we all love. Make sure you check them out at the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com. And if you've ever got any questions, every time we do a gear segment, Cam gives you the number. We do it for a reason. It's not just about the equipment, it's about the expertise. and they have it in spades. They're happy to answer your call, answer your questions, and give you the advice that will get you out there making saves and enjoying the game.
Making saves like Matty Hutch.
I was looking for a perfect segue, Darren, but I choked. I choked because that's what I would do in that situation. If I was placed in it, I would choke. There we go.
I was watching this come down about Matty and following along the story, and all I could think of was 14 at 15-year-old year, but 14 at the time. And are we not so fortunate that he can do that with the equipment that's available today, protection-wise, and going through that instead of Dad's era, where you'd be petrified to face the shots, that he can do that and just rely on his skill instead of being flinchy and scared, Pops?
100%. There's no way I would send my kid out in that gear that we used to wear. I actually sent him a couple of catalog clips that from the old Cooper upper body gear this week.
2-piece or 1-piece?
That came up. What's that?
2-piece or 1-piece upper body gear?
Yeah, 2-piece. I had that, and it was up on Twitter from a guy, and I've forgotten your handle, and I apologize. It's like Cooper Goalie, something like that. A beer leaguer who has all these tribute sets he's built of retro gear. That it's just spectacular. He's got a YouTube channel as well. It's super fun to check out. So I shared that with Maddie, and it would be terrifying to go out and play in the stuff that we used to, and it'd probably be child abuse to send my 14-year-old out in it, but feel perfectly safe out there now. So
but there's a lesson there, like beyond, you're right, Darren, like beyond like looking at super old gear and what it'd be like when we were kids, well, especially when Hutch was a kid, because he's the oldest one amongst us. But you talked about this, Hutch, like he's been out there facing these shots since a very young age, as young as 12, like getting to skate with junior and major junior guys at various camps or there in Nanaimo, and having, like, there's a lesson here for parents. If you are going to up the level, you do need to make sure that you get a level of protection that the kid is not going to be or develop. Because at 12, you could still become scared of the puck. Not that Maddie would, but dude, I flinched on one on Monday Night Hockey the other day. A guy who played and had a cup of coffee in the NHL came down the wing and put his head down. And it's the first time in years I actually like sort of lifted back up and flinched, and he blew it by me. Like, you have to feel safe out there. And not to make this a hockey shop ad, but that's part of the conversations we have with Cam each week. We've got a Bauer Elite chest protector next week for the segment. So that's the second tier down. And I asked him, like, I feel really big and safe in this thing. Like, what level am I not going to end up flinching and feel bruised? And so, if you are putting your kids up a level, or you have that option, or getting them out there against those shooters, it's important to make sure you talk to people about what level of equipment they're going to, you're going to feel comfortable with them being in, but they're going to be safe in, especially masks and chest protectors.
What did you get the blades profile to? What did you tell Cecil to go with?
So Cam suggested I actually don't even know what it means, but Cam suggested 24, 28. I went to our local shop and I said to see if I could get his old blades profiled that way, and they didn't even know what I was talking about, because I guess they use a completely different system. So maybe Cam can explain it next week in a little cameo or a week after how that all works. But he just, the way he described his contact with the ice, he said he could shuffle like he could never shuffle before, that he felt there was zero resistance. And yet suddenly when he had to engage the blade a little bit, it was there for him immediately. So that was fantastic. Woody, I would just add to that equipment. And again, he did flinch a little bit, probably about 11 years old. I remember watching him flinch a couple times. He's got a really good buddy who was shooting like a man at 11. Shout out Nate. And Maddie would start flinching a little bit. So I immediately got in touch with Cam. I said, the most important piece of equipment for him is his helmet. Let's get him the best helmet we can possibly get him. And honestly, hasn't flinched since the day that helmet arrived. And mask, for those who hate when I say helmet, Darren. And do pay attention if you've got younger kids, because with all due respect to our friends in the gear industry, the youth gear doesn't always cut it, because they have to keep they can't have it too bulky for these really tiny kids. They obviously have to keep the prices down on them. So from a very young age, I was doing what you and I probably both did, Darren, as youngsters, and I was cannibalizing old pieces of gear to bulk up, especially his pants. I found those were really rough in that sort of hip area as a youth goalie. So, definitely talk to Cam and friends, and look after your head, folks.
I just remember the pants, the inside of the thighs. Like the protection is so good now, but it used to get bruised up. Now it's like, I can just make that save whenever I want. Great job to Maddie. Great job to you, Pops. And congratulations to the Cowichan Capitals for providing that opportunity to allow that experience to take place. And we can't wait for the next step. Let's get back to that Cam in the hockey shop. We're talking a little twig action this week, Woody.
Yeah, we're going to go back to back CCM sticks. Last week we had all the pro returns, and folks, keep your eyes on the hockeyshop.com. The pro returns were due to some technical issues, a little slow to get up on the website, but they are coming. If you happen to live in the area, do yourself a favor and go check them out in person. We teased it on our video. If you go to last week's episode page at ingoalmag.com, you can see the racks of sticks, both what's out in public and what's behind the scenes. They have a lot of option in the pro return. Well, this week we wanted to talk about the 5.9, which is the second price point down. And in particular, there's a Camism in particular. We wanted to take a look at what the difference is, right? Like, why would I spend $200 on the 5.9 versus $200 on the pro return stick? So Cam was gracious enough to walk us through some of the features on a 5.9 stick that may not be the top level of what CCM intended to offer this year, but made a really good impression on me picking it up for the first time at the hockey shop with Cam. Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, source for sports, here in Goalie Utopia. We have everything you would want as a goaltender, including the new CCM Eflex 5.9 stick. What we don't have is Cam, because when I picked this up and said, man, that's really light for a second price point stick, I asked him how much it weighed. And he said, I could tell you, but I'd have to look it up.
I didn't have to look it up. I just did a little bit of field testing, and it weighs exactly 700 grams at a 26-inch stick. Not bad for a mid-price point.
That's what we call show research, Cam, and it's usually done before we're on air.
I'm a slave for good intros.
That works as an intro. Welcome back
To the Hockey Shop, source of sports.
Okay, your show. Tell me about the Eflex 5.9 stick. Now, full disclosure, a lot of you are like, whatever happened to the Eflex 5 stick? Remember when we had our CCM designers and the people behind the scenes that helped build this gear on the webinar at InGoal Magazine? Due to supply chain issues, they've pushed the Eflex 5 stick back to the spring of 2022, but you can still get the 5.9. And to be honest, sometimes we're a little slow in sort of doing that next price point down, talking about some of these options. Like I said, I picked this up. It feels nice and light. You mentioned 700 grams. Like, I honestly felt like it felt lighter, and I think that's because of the balance on it. What are some of the other things that you're going to get in this stick? Obviously, maybe not quite to the extent you'd get in an Eflex 5, but in this second price point, the first thing you're getting is a lower price point, $200 versus the Eflex 5 being a more expensive stick.
Correct. So, they had to replace their lineup because last year they still had that 4.9, which was a foam core stick. So those are gone now. No more 4.9. Sorry, your foam core people.
Apologies to Marc-Andre Fleury, but no more CCM foam core sticks.
My apologies. However,
did he call you the other week about those pro returns?
My phone's it's on loud. I'm still waiting.
We got a message in. Call him, Mark.
Back to stick. Yes, you're looking for a lightweight stick that's, more reasonably priced. You're still getting a lot of that foam core feel out of the Eflex line of sticks, which is what CCM was really going for. So Flex is a big one. It still is that soft flex style. As you can see, I can still get quite a good bow, especially into that paddle.
I was going to say in the paddle too, because we've heard a lot of goalies talking about flex sort of through here and into the seam at the shoulder. Mm-hmm. But what I loved about the Eflex 4, and it seems to have carried over even into the second price point on the 5, is that flex through the paddle, which is just that little extra zip when you're popping a quick pass.
Exactly, as well as their carbon blade. So that's, again, what's helping to keep that weight down. Called out, as you can see it. Again, good control, good feel, good rebound pop off it too as well. So you get that, again, supreme control. But overall, actually, I quite like this stick. For what is a $200 price point, it's going up again against some of the other ones that are on there. Again, you're getting a lot of good value out of this, and especially since you don't really have that higher end option. You could argue that this isn't really too far off from that Pro Stick.
And some different options, as you can see. We've got the different sort of curves between the two, but also rounded toe, square toe. Gave Cam square toe. It's a bit of a square.
But
do they even use that terminology anymore? Not sure. Anyways.
So, yes, you're getting P1, which Kevin has, and P4, formerly known as Price Curve and Crawford Curve. Again, more of your wedge design, rounded toe, more of your mid curve, closer to your Bauer P31 here, closer to your Bauer P34 over here, for those that are using, the Bauer nomenclature. Again, great overall feel, some good stock, 2 colors, black and white.
That's red and white over here, not colorblind actually. And you've still got the Pro Returns in stock as well. So folks, the one question that many of you might be asking, there is Eflex Form Premier 2 Pro stock at $200. Why don't I buy the highest level stick and the Pro Returns compared to the second price point of the new model? And your answer, would be A, sort of more stock, like you said, patterns and curves that you're familiar with versus some of the custom ones over there. But the other one would be warranty. This one comes with one. As we said last week, the Pro Returns don't. But 30-day warranty. But lots of options here at the Hockey Shop from CCM and their stick line. The Eflex 5 may not have arrived just yet, and not till the spring, but there are plenty of options to keep you snapping passes and helping your breakout here at the Hockey Shop Gold Department. Cam, if they got questions about those Pro Returns or about the various options you have here, most of them will be answered. You can check out thehockeyshop.com, but if they want to get a hold of you,
604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790.
He's gotten really good with the numbers in terms of how to call him. Now we just need to work on the research before the show so he doesn't have to go running off as we hit record.
Like I said, good entrance. How was your entrance? How's your hair? Try again.
Cut.
Options. That's what you get with the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports Surrey on the sticks, the Eflex 5.9 with CCM, or you've got the Pro Return route that you can go as well. Again, the warranty is slightly different on the two.
One thing to check out on the Pro Returns, because last week when we talked about them, the first thing I thought of was make sure you check the blade curve and some of the custom options there. Before you buy, check out the shoulder. A lot of sort of custom on the shoulder and custom grips. I picked up a Jordan Binnington Pro Return to give it a whirl. It's sort of the right size and flex for me. I didn't really pay much attention to the shoulder. It's rounded on the inside, a lot more square on the outside. It really changes sort of how you feel. We talked about the trigger fingers that they have available as part of the Pro Returns, but also a lot of different custom options, some rounded shoulders, some shaved shoulders, a lot of different sort of grip options. So make sure you check that out before you buy. And it's a good chance to experiment with those kind of things.
For those that aren't familiar with that terminology, the shoulder is the top part of the handle?
The grip, essentially, basically where the paddle sort of meets the shaft.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that I knew what you were talking about, and I couch that. This is what I do. I say, for those that don't know, that whenever I use that expression, that means I'm not really sure.
Well, the reality is I'm probably not even using the right terminology myself. So all the equipment companies are listening. What the hell's Woodley talking about this week? Idiot.
Papa Hutch, is Woody using the proper terminology there?
I don't know, but all I can think of is can we just create a whole new term, get Woodley to use it, and change the industry?
Yes.
Let's just invent some terminology.
That's right. Bend to my will, folks.
Yeah.
The shoulder and the trigger finger, and then let's get into the curve. Do you guys like the heel curve? What does Matty use?
I actually don't even know. That's how good Cam is. I just have to call him and say, Cam, send another one.
Nice.
I think he said he definitely wants a very flexy stick, and I'm pretty sure he would like a big toe curve if he could get one, but I'm not sure what he's using. Sorry.
One of the goaltenders at the Golden Knights camp, and I can't remember exactly which one. I just saw him come out of the ice and he skated below me. The curve was wicked, and I thought, I want that
Find
curve.
out.
It was
Find
one of those
out.
ones where you go, is that legal? But again, curves. There's we're living in a very liberal time when it comes to curves for that. But I thought it was fascinating. That the good for him.
You better find out for us.
Yeah, I'll do some investigating. Slide over to our feature interview brought to you by Sense Arena VR, continuing to do some great things in the world of off-ice training for goaltenders, Hutch.
Yeah, they sure do. And, we've been talking, obviously, about my son and the level he's been playing at. And we so often focus on the elite, and we assume that everybody's out there 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week. But the reality is that the majority of goaltenders are only on the ice, maybe 1 to 3 times a week, whether you're playing recreational hockey, whether you're at a lower level, or whether you're a beer leaguer like we are. You don't get to hit the ice 6, 7 times a week. And yet we know that these kids are all driven to be the best that they possibly can be and just love the game and would have more if they could. Sense Arena is a way that you can do it, guys, because you might not have access to the ice, but you've got access to your Oculus headset. You can load up the Sense Arena app and you can start making saves in your house as often as you want. You can train 6 days a week if you want. And that's, one of the reasons that some of the NHL teams have adopted them, because you've got that opportunity to use Sense Arena to practice your reads, to practice tracking pucks without the way it beats up your body. So if you're, to be repeatedly butterflying on the ice. So whether you're an elite goaltender who wants to, get a little bit more work in without the wear and tear of ice times, or whether you're a younger or older goaltender who doesn't get as much ice as you'd like, Sense Arena gives you that opportunity to train at home as much as you'd like. And you get the chance to face some junior and pro shooters and see what it feels like. I can tell you that working at those higher speeds in Sense Arena translates to better tracking when you hit the ice. We've said it before. It's like a cheat code for goaltending. So every time you load up Sense Arena, it's going to help you become a better goalie. And every couple of months, you're going to see revisions to the software as well, because they just keep making it better and better and better, as Brian DeCourt alluded to last week when he was talking to us. So if you want to check it out, if you want to make it part of your arsenal for this season, go to sensearena.com. You can use the code IGM50, that's like in goal mag 50, and to get a discount and enjoy, folks.
And what's one side benefit that I've found with it, and Woody, as a guy that goes hard on the Peloton, will confirm, when you're working with Sense Arena, it's not just the reaction time and what you go through and the repetition of facing shots when you don't have ice time, but your heart rate gets up a little bit. Like, you go through these drills and you do get, you're not walking off drenched in sweat, but you do get a bit of cardio experience.
I think it's the intensity that you have to maintain. You know what I mean? It's not like I don't know if it's so much the movements and the physical, like it's the concentration and having the body in the right position. And you're right. Like there's a little sheen there, right? Like, I need to go have a shower afterwards. I'm not allowed to go to bed if I'm on the Sense Arena. I can't go straight to bed. Got to go make sure I clean up after, right? I'm not soaked, but just enough that, you're not coming to bed like that.
I was just surprised at that when you look at your tracking device, your watch or whatever, and you go, that's a little more elevated than I anticipated. Might just be because I'm old, but we have a very important conversation that Kevin Woodley had with Alfie Michaud in this week's Sense Arena feature interview on In Goal Radio, the podcast. And it centers around the Day of Truth and Reconciliation and the discussions that we are having now and will have to force ourselves to continue to have down the road, because this is, as you guys so eloquently phrase, it's not a one day a year discussion. But this is a path that is different for this podcast, but is also very relevant and very impactful to so many. Kevin.
Yeah, and I think the whole point is to start having these conversations, right? Even if they are not comfortable. And we spend about half of this interview talking about that, about Alfie's experience with residential schools. Believe it or not, like firsthand experience when he was younger, which was shocking to me that they existed as late as 1996. Maybe as you hear from Alfie, not in the form that we've heard about, or as but this was eye opening. That was eye opening to me when I read it. I think a lot of these details were eye opening to people and not hiding from those facts. And so we had that conversation with Alfie. We wrapped it up with some hockey talk as well, some goaltending talk. Split it about 50-50. And as usual, Alfie has some great observations about the game and the position at the end of it. But I think, it's interesting because the conversation gets easier, right? When we switch back to goaltending for the second half. But that's why this is important. It's not an easy conversation to have all the time. People like me, with all my privilege that I've grown up with and not having to experience or know any of this happened, it's not easy to ask those questions. I struggle a little bit with it, but it's important that we all understand what went on so we can move on a path towards truth and reconciliation, understand what happened, or try to at least make the effort to understand. And, so two things here. One, just off the top, obviously, when we talked to Alfie, it was on the actual, it's a holiday up in here. Holiday is the wrong word, but it's a stat up here in Canada now federally, Truth and Reconciliation Day. That's September 30th. October 1st is when the Orange Jersey Project, orangejerseyproject.ca launches. And so Alfie talks a little bit about that, but you can make sure, Hutch, to put you on the spot, we'll have to have it in the show notes to make sure people can have the links to go check out the auction there. And, just some fundraising and awareness raising surrounding the day so that they can do more throughout the year to continue this conversation, as difficult as it is to have sometimes.
And Alfie does a great job of explaining his feelings and what he has gone through as a youngster, as a father, as a husband now, and how he has those conversations with children and prospects who are coming up through the hockey world in this current day. It's the feature interview brought to you by Sense Arena, Kevin Woodley with Alfie Michaud.
Pleased to welcome back to the InGoal Radio podcast from the University of Maine, the goaltending coach there, and of course, longtime goaltender there, Alfie Michaud. Last time we had you on the show, Alfie, it was you and Jeremy Swayman double teaming it. This time, bringing you back for a more serious topic, at least at the beginning here. I know you're involved in the Orange Jersey Project. I couldn't think of anyone better to bring on to talk about the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, Orange Shirt Day here in Canada, and some of the horrific sort of news that we've had over the past year and how the communities have reacted to that this day. I don't even really know where to start, but just you tell me what the news of the past year, how it's impacted you and your community, and what you see as the path towards reconciliation and some of the efforts that are going on these days.
Well, I guess it's impacted me because I've had two things, I guess. I actually went to a residential school. My years in LeBret, Saskatchewan, for me, it's a totally different thing. I went there to play hockey. But I lived in residence for a year, my grade 12 year. It was one of those things. I had my own room with two other guys, but there was a general population, and a lot of people ask, did you hear crying and different things? But for me, it was a totally different experience in a way, because I came from, quote unquote, a white community in Selkirk, Manitoba, kind of brought back into the native community, living living in a residential school, being surrounded by obviously all First Nation kids. So it was different for me, but now looking back, it's 20 something years. I graduated in 94. So, it's whatever, 27 years now. Looking back at some things and knowing and understanding these kids were, moved away to go to school because the government said they had to. It's kind of crazy to think about it. And, I was a naive 16, 17-year-old out there, so I didn't know much about it. But now knowing a lot of friends and knowing a lot of their relatives of what they went through, kind of those early days of residential schools, it's kind of mind-boggling to think that happened, to be honest with you. It's sad. Obviously, a lot of things coming out now here in the last half year, stuff in British Columbia, and they're finding mass graves all across Canada. It's sad. It's something, it's a part of our history in Canada that was kind of swept under the rug. I know I've had a lot of friends reach out to me that, non-Native friends that just had no idea, that this stuff even happened. So it's one of those things that was kind of, again, swept under the rug, and nobody knew about it. So, for this cause to kind of bring awareness and hopefully start the healing process for a lot of these people, these families, it's a good thing. It's a very small step, but it's really one step at a time, I guess.
What's the most important part of that step right now, Alfie, in terms of, is it just that education and making people aware that this is part of our history and that we can't continue to sweep it up under the rug?
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Education, that's all you can really do right now. Hopefully there's some sympathy there because, being First Nations, I know a lot of people, sometimes they hear things. It's like, well, it's in the past. Well, yeah, it was in the past, but it was never dealt with. A lot of these things that have happened around the world have been recognized and been dealt with. And it hasn't been the case in Canada when it comes to this stuff. It's only starting to get recognized and hopefully, baby steps, but again, I think the big thing is recognizing, educating, and then doing better going forward. So, for me, just, I really don't know what to do. I'm leaning on a lot of friends and elders and older people, to try to help me understand so that hopefully I can make a small difference, because I think if we all do that, the world would be a better place.
It sounds like, I think it would, probably surprises people. And again, a big part of this is having eyes open and going back and learning the history and recognizing the history and the truth of the history, and words like genocide are attached to it, and that is part of Canada's history. I think it'd probably surprise a lot of people that there were residential schools, as you said, as late as 1996, and maybe your experiences going in there were different. But what are some of the other education points that you think it's really important to get home and to drive home, both in terms of recognizing what happened, but the damage and the impact that it had, but also still has in these communities, and maybe some examples for you, being from Manitoba, Ojibwe. I hope I said that right, Alfie. I'm brutal with. So it does. Me. There we go. Me. It's like, doesn't matter whether it's different countries or whatever. I'm always screwing the names up. So hopefully I didn't do it too badly. But what's the most important part here? Is there one?
I just hope people understand that what happened. I know it was in the past, but it led for a lot of things that led on to generations. Led to alcoholism, to just a lot of these things that end up happening with a lot of First Nations. Well, can you imagine getting taken away as a 7-8-year-old? You can't speak your language. They're cutting your hair. I sat with the late great Freddie Sasakamoose, and we had long talks about this. And he was in residential school with his brother, and he couldn't see his sister for 2 years. They were all in the same school, but they couldn't see each other. And how often it was so bad that he wished he can die. You're 9-10 years old, and you're essentially contemplating suicide, and how that can have effects on you, and then how that's gonna, that had effects on a lot of people, that it affected the next generation, and then the generation after that. If you can't talk to your mother or father because they're so devastated from what happened to them as children growing up through into their teen years, and they essentially shut down, that's going to affect a lot of people and generations, which it has, and that's where I think about it. Again, I have very close friends that, their parents are only coming out speaking about it now. And these parents are 70 years old, and friends of mine didn't understand why their mom and dads were quiet, or their mom and, it's just something that a lot of these people just try to bury, and you almost want to forget about that. And, so I couldn't even imagine. Again, my mom, she was raised on a Northern Reserve, and she had, she was kind of considered a day residential school. So she went to school. It was taught by the nuns and everything. But she got to go home to her family at least. But I couldn't imagine, I have 3 young daughters. I couldn't imagine them coming and taking away one of my girls, and you can't see them for a couple of years, and you really had no choice. Either you fought it and probably, got hurt or something, but it's, I just hope out of all of this, there's education, and hopefully in some small way we can help, these people going through this tough time.
And it's something, obviously, as you said, that's impacted generations, and probably, as you said, just things that people didn't understand, psychological impacts that nobody really knew, what they were from, or how deep rooted they were, coming to the surface now because we are finally having this conversation. Tell me about the Orange Jersey Project and how you hope that will help further the conversation and make sure that it continues to happen, that the conversation continues, not just on Orange Shirt Day, not just on National Day for Truth and Reconciliation here in Canada. We're guilty of it here at InGoal, right? Called you to have this conversation to help raise awareness, but it can't just be on this day. How does the Orange Jersey Project make sure this isn't just a once-a-year conversation, and that process continues?
So I was contacted actually by my cousin, Kyle Perstoop, out of Winnipeg, and he knew I knew people, and being part of the NHL Native alumni group, these guys got together in Winnipeg, started this Orange Jersey project, and essentially what they want to do is try to get as many pros to essentially sign orange jerseys. So these guys are gonna get jerseys made up, just say for my name, for instance, Michaud, my pro number. We autograph them. They're gonna, I think they got a 2 or 3 week auction, and it's on the link I sent you, and you can bid on it and hopefully raise money, and raise awareness, and all the proceeds are going to go to hopefully help survivors of this great tragedy, so to speak. So, and it's going to be, I know this was kind of phase one of it. They're hoping to have another phase where it isn't just a one day thing here. This should be something daily, where people are working hard to try to make a difference here. So it's pretty cool. A lot of guys really jumped on board. John Chabot, he's an ex-Montreal Canadian and Pittsburgh Penguin and Detroit Red Wing. Johnny really took the bull by the horns. He got a hold of all the guys and the alumni. And I know, Ted Nolan, there's, and I think Trotz, Brian Trotz. There's a lot of guys, Reggie Leach, Jamie Leach, Rick Natras, Laurie Boschman, Aaron Asham. A lot of guys step forward. They're obviously, Brady Keeper, Zach Whitecloud, guys like that, the younger generation. They're all stepping up, and they're going to sign jerseys and hopefully get them auctioned off here and raise some money. And then more importantly, with those platforms, Ethan Bear, all those guys, they're just raising more awareness and hopefully using their platforms. Like Woody, I reached out to Weeksy, today, and via Messenger, and then Weeksy put a nice message up on Instagram, and in his Twitter account. So it's just kind of trying to reach out to as many people that have platforms that can kind of use their voice to just bring awareness, and then, like you said, kind of start the conversation. It's not going to be, in our household, we use the word raggedy a lot. It's going to be a raggedy conversation. Probably going to get upset about it, but it's understanding that these conversations are not perfect, and both sides got to understand that, you're just trying to learn. Because I know many times with my wife, when she brings up things and we get talking, and I almost get offended by it sometimes, that she doesn't know or understand, but it's not her fault, right? She's just, she's trying to educate. And I think that's where we definitely got to be better. Both sides, is the ones that are trying to help educate, being very patient and understanding that the people that don't know, lots of times it's just, they don't know. And what they say or the questions they ask, it isn't to be mean or anything. It's just, they want to know, and I think people have to understand that and have an open mind and just continue to talk.
That website you mentioned, www.orangejerseyproject.ca, will have links up. We do have links up on all our social media accounts right now. You mentioned the jerseys. I see there's one from Carey Price as well. We've had that, I remember when he won the year he won the Hart and the Vezina, the speech he gave, talking to a family that was at the Carey Price Day the next year that, was from a reserve, and the dad that was driving his son, hundreds of miles to kind of a similar story to Carey, to play minor hockey, to chase that same dream. The impact that voices like Carey, like Ethan Bear, like Zach Whitecloud, the impact that they can have as NHLers using their voices in the other communities. I know you've been very active in that. You see that impact every day?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Like, it's just, those guys are, never want to use the word God, but they are so worshipped by these young kids. It's a great thing that they do. And I know all those guys. I know a few of them personally. I don't know Carey personally, but what they do for the First Nations and how proud those people are of what they do, not only on the ice, but just what they do for all those people across the country. It's great. I know I'm a proud First Nation, and then to see those guys excel in the NHL and be some of the best, it's yeah, you're very proud and proud of them. And, you know, and again, they're just, you know, leaving a path for hopefully some of these young kids to follow. And whether they make it to the National Hockey League or not, you know, they're setting a foundation for these kids to try to chase those dreams. And as you know, and if you can get into some of these sports and go all in, you know, you don't got time to get into trouble. You're out there just trying to get there. And I know, just on a personal note, you know, growing up chasing the NHL, like, you know, you're so stinking busy trying to get there. Again, it keeps you out of mischief, so to speak. And that's what these guys are doing. They're just leading the way. They're great role models to all these kids. And hopefully we get down the road, a few more Carey Prices or Zach Whiteclouds or Ethan Bears or Brady Keepers or Bridget Laquettes. You know, it's great what those young people are doing.
Well, I know you do things as well, and I know you don't like to toot your own horn, but beyond the NHL Native Alumni Association, I know you're involved with some youth clinics whenever you have a chance. How important is that work? Have you ever come across, and I only came across this story today, but familiarity at all with Devin Buffalo and the work he's doing as well? You know, another goaltender who came up and played some minor pro.
Yeah, I know Buff really well. Actually, I zoomed into one of his camps he was having in Alberta. It's just, you know how it is, and the hockey world is so small. Then you start adding the goalie world to boot, it gets smaller, and then you add the First Nations. It's super small. Devin's he's been a great role model. He's gonna get his law degree. He really wants to make a difference, and for the First Nation youth, he's another great role model. And there's a lot of them out there, and you know, and that's great. And it's just important to get out there and let these kids know that really anything's possible. You know, when we're out, you know, I traveled with Reggie and Jamie and Leach, and very fortunate to travel with Johnny Shabbat and that group, the alumni. And, you know, the message most of the time, it's not about hockey. It's just about finding your passion in something and then chasing after it, you know, and whether it's a doctor, a lawyer, a painter, you know, that's the biggest message. And then knowing that, you know, sport can be an avenue for a lot of these kids to find opportunities, you know. And so it's it's something that's near to my heart. I wish I had a little more time. Obviously, with the job at Maine, it gets pretty tough to sneak away like I used to when I did it kind of almost like a full-time gig. But any chance we can, we're obviously gonna do our best to you know, help those kids and help the people that are putting in a lot of work, you know, here. So we'll see.
Well, and I know the impact you've had on a young man like, say, Brady Keeper, in terms of giving him that opportunity first at Maine and then moving on to the National Hockey League. But you're on the road now. Let's catch us up on where you're at. AJ, you're chasing prospects, AJHL prospect camp right now, driving around Alberta as we talk to you. Life on the road, eh? It's not all Whistling Straits golf trip.
Yeah, no, that was the summer deal. This is actually first time I flew in last night. First time I got back to Canada here since March 13th of when kind of the world shut down. So
nice to be back.
Yeah, it's great. It's always great. You know, it's not home, obviously, back in Manitoba, but just to be back on kind of Canadian soil and, you know, hearing the A's and just how really friendly, you know, our people are. It was just great. You know, it's kind of gives you a tingly feeling, and, you know, to wheel in like today, got up and got going. I ripped over to to Timmy Hortons, and it was great because Tim Hortons did a thing where they were selling orange frosted or orange sprinkled donuts, for today, which I thought was really cool. And so yeah, just like you said, just it's Canada. It really is the greatest country out there, and it's always great to come home. So yeah, I'm out here just for the weekend here to watch some hockey and hopefully find some hockey players, and then we get at it next week for real. We got one exhibition game this weekend that I'll miss because of recruiting, but then it's for real next week, and just really excited to get going and then getting to play in front of some fans. We start off in University of Omaha next weekend, so I'm sure it'll be a great crowd and a great opportunity. So looking forward to it.
Well, nice to have you back scouting. Let's. I don't know if you heard last week we had Brian DeCord on with some advice for parents. So let's flip the script here a little bit for a couple minutes. Alfie, Michaud out there scouting, and I know you do more than just goaltenders, but when you're looking at goalies, there's probably a lot of young goalies out there wondering, hey, what are they looking for? What are these NCAA scouts looking for in my game? What kind of things are you looking for, Alfie, when you're crossing off the checklist, when you're looking at a kid maybe for the first time or for the fifth time?
Probably, right away jumps out is whether a guy's he's mobile. What's his mobility like? Can he skate or not? And that's not just around the crease. Like, how effective is he getting out and stopping pucks? So that right away for me is one thing, and then just how smart he is. How does he make his reads? Because the higher level it gets, the quicker it gets. Hopefully, you can read the play quick and make your decisions. And then, size is a little bit there, but like I just watched two really goalies that were probably 6-footers and great edges, great, real efficient in their movements. You're always just trying to who kind of looks like a raw pro, so to speak, and so raw meaning just having that athleticism. Like, you look at all the big dogs in the NHL, they're so darn athletic and they got that explosive flexibility. So those are things I'm probably looking for. I'm not into the clean and fancy goalie. I think we can clean that up at our level. I want an athlete, guy that competes, just finds a way to stop pucks. And then hopefully, if he's a good enough kid, when you get to talk to them and you realize that they're kind of go-getters, and, you can, the sky's the limit, so to speak, if you get a guy that's coachable. So, I know that's a long-winded answer, but that's kind of the gist of it.
Well, it touched a lot of different points, though, and I thought it was interesting that you started with skating, because it's been a topic of conversation here at In Goal, both on the podcast and through some of the webinars we did this summer with Hockey Canada. That idea, I think, for a long time, goalies, Alfie, they just want to do goalie stuff. Let's do some drills, let's move in our crease. And I really, my ears perked up when I think it was Dan Stewart with the St. Louis Blues development and American Hockey League goalie coach talked about, get outside of your crease, do some of the skating drills that aren't just for goalies, aren't just crease movement patterns, because that ability to get out and play the puck is directly tied to that. We heard it from Mike Smith, and it sounds like that resonates for you too in terms of something you look for.
Yeah, for sure. I just think, I think a lot of us want to know what the secret in, the secret a lot of those Russian goalies are, because you're seeing they're all great skating and athletic, but I think they got a lot of old school in them. I still do, believe it or not, Woody, I do old school stuff. We do the figure 8 crossovers around tires and different ways. And I just think you just got to be nimble on your feet. We guys skip, just trying to get on the balls of your feet. And I just think that the best just just have such light feet. Carey Price, Vasilevsky, Bobrovsky, Swayman. I got to throw Sway a plug, otherwise I get in trouble. But they just got they got feet where, God, they're on their goal line, and it's literally one flick of the heel, and they're at the top of the paint, or one flick of the toe, and they're on their post, And I just think that's just something to be said, and that's the skating aspect. I think a lot of goalies, for the most part, can get east-west, but I think that the transitional piece of the elites, that's a big thing. Like the way they can take away space in a hurry on a shooter, just by getting out, or they're out in a situation, and then it calls for a high to low play, and it's boom, they're on their goal post, and then they're back out, before they know it. So I just think that's just, when I really look at those guys, that separates a lot of those guys, that's just something different. And then absorbing pucks, the best find ways to soak it up, eat it up, however anybody wants to word it. They're really good at that. So
when you watch and scout that, I got a two-parter here. First off, I want to go back to the tires and skating around the tires and crossovers and figure eights and all those things, because that return to edge work is something that, again, Dan Stewart talked about it. We heard about it a lot this summer, I thought. And as I said, a little eye-opening for me, because I probably had settled into watching crease movement patterns and in goal doing a lot of crease movement pattern stories and drills and things like that. You ever get any sort of side eye or second looks from guys who are coming in for the first time and you're rolling out the tires or asking for the figure eights and crossovers? Or is that something that they know is coming?
Well, chances are I've told them along the way in the recruiting process that I'm probably a little old school in that sense, where it's something I grew up doing, right? It was 86 when I started playing goal. It was a year Wall won the cup with Montreal. So, I remember doing all that kind of stuff, you do figure eights in a center circle, but you skated like a player, or a defenseman. And so we do that kind of stuff. Yeah, it definitely is, you get that sideways look, but then the guys realize that you got to be able to not only play on your inside edges, you got to be able to use your outside edge. And then you just got to be able to, I always just tell them, men, what we do is we play on one leg, essentially as a goaltender. Like, you're stopping on one leg, you're pushing off one leg. So we do a lot of single leg stuff, or where you're bounding left to right. So I think if you can find ways to find your counterbalance on one leg, it's going to be beneficial. I know we hit the ice with two knees, but after that, it's kind of, you're going on one leg somewhere, and chances are you're stopping on one leg somewhere. So you better be darn good at just balance and using inside outside edges, and you got to find a way to maneuver that big hip bone. So,
well, you know exactly where I want to take that next. But one little side, when you're talking, I got to go back to the scouting for a quick sec before I ask you the ballet question. When we talk about one leg, I'm going to ballet, but the evaluation process, I thought it was interesting how important you talked about absorbing pucks and controlling pucks was. Brian DeCourt, again, not to go back to last week's feature interview in that conversation, but he's got a new app out that is designed to sort of allow you to easily sort of contextualize a goaltender's performance by tracking some components, so you can sort of, you know how it is. No two shots are the same. So let's add a little context here, whether we're scouting or evaluating a goalie we're coaching in a game. And one of the most important things he said was that ability to control pucks, quantifying good rebounds, controlled pucks, killing plays, things like that. And it sounds to me like that's something that you value highly as well, because he talked about how important that was, and how important it was for him to add that to the app as a factor in an evaluation tool.
Yeah, it's stopping. There's so much that goes into stopping a puck, right? The reads, the skating, the setting your feet. we kind of go off the term of you see a puck, you skate to a puck, you set your feet, and then you stop the puck, right? And if you don't, and then the fifth one is what Sway kind of, if you're not spongy or you don't soak it up, well, guess what? You got to do that whole process over again, and it's literally controlled. It's on repeat. And the good guys, you can call them lazy. They're just smarter at the fact that why do I want to do all that work over and over again if I don't have to? Like my old man, my dad growing up is like, my son, if you can control the puck, you control the play. That's kind of something we preach to our guys. It's, we dictate the pace of the game. We can slow it down, we can speed it up. It just depends how we want to, but you can definitely slow the game down by controlling it, whether you're taking whistles or whether you got good hands or good stick or you absorb well on body shots. That's honestly, Woody, that's, to me, that's just common sense. Like if you can get good at that's half the battle.
Okay, so you said you're happy to be back. You'll have fans back in the stands, I understand, this year, which will be nice. Does this also mean to go back to the one leg and the importance of that? Does this mean the guys are back in ballet class for real, or they still have to take it online?
We talked about it. They couldn't get in this semester, so chances are they'll do some. But they have their YouTube. We got stuff from YouTube that I got from my 10-year-old daughter's class, and I know the guys do it. We got some players trying it, some guys that are stiff through the ankles and whatnot. And yeah, it's something like it's there. I don't push it on them, Woody. It's just there's something that has helped a guy that's found his way in the National Hockey League. And I know it's not for everyone, but how he talks about it and how it's helped him with his balance and his flexibility and his core strength. Like, why wouldn't you want to try it and give it a go? And just, if you're really serious about what you want to do and it can help you get that 1 or 2% better, just why not? So I don't push it on the kids, but I'll go in and chirp them. They got their skills ball machine they do before practice and that, but then I'll go in with a friendly chirp about ballet to see if it's something they've been keeping up of. But we got 3 really dedicated goalies there, and so they're all into it, and it's it feels like it's working, so we'll stick with it.
Okay, who we keeping an eye on this year for the University of Maine? How are the 3 guys looking?
3 guys are looking good. All 3 have looked really good. All 3 will probably get a period here. This weekend, hopefully. I'm not there, so I'll get the game. I'll watch the game streamed. They're all looking good. We're really, really excited with all of them. Again, where we want to be at is a program is that every guy we bring there, it's hopefully they're coming to play for us and then move on to play at the pro level. I'm not saying every guy's NHLer, but it's we want to get to a point where every kid has an opportunity to go play some pro hockey, whether it's the East Coast, the American League, Europe. You're gonna get your one guy every X amount of years that hopefully makes it the NHL. But I'm a realist. It's the best league in the world, and we'll do our best to recruit the best athletes, the best people, and then hopefully they put in their work, and we'll let the chips fall where they may.
Alfie, I really appreciate your time today. Conversation, you and I could talk hockey and goaltending forever and easily. The conversation at the beginning was a little tougher because I didn't know how to ask the questions, but I appreciate you helping me through it because I think it's a conversation that isn't always easy, especially from my end, but one that more people like me need to have so that we can have an understanding and better understand some of the things that happened in this country and some of the things that that happened at the residential schools. And I appreciate you taking the time to share some of your perspective on it, not just with me, but with our audience. So thank you very much, my friend.
Oh, thank you. It was great. And for any of you guys out there or anybody listening, like, grab an elder, when you're walking, grab an elder on the street. You'd be surprised that a lot of the elders, our older people, are always willing to educate. And that's what I love about our people. They're chock full of stories, and sometimes the story isn't always the happy-go-lucky one, but you're always going to learn. There's no question. And like I said, that, just try it one time. I still do it, believe me, and I've learned a boatload by doing that. So.
And we learn every time we talk to you, Alfie, on both fronts. So thanks again. Safe travels back enjoy the rest of the weekend in Alberta. Safe travels back, and we'll catch up soon, because you still owe me one on your career, buddy. We've talked Swayman. We had some heavy subjects today. We talked scouting, but you still owe me a podcast on your career. So I'll hold you to that one down the road, my friend.
All right, buddy. All the best. Thanks a lot. You guys all be safe. Take care.
You can feel the pressure lift off that conversation, which tells you just how sensitive and how difficult it is to have the discussion with Kevin Woodley and Alfie Michaud. Thanks for that, Kevin. Thanks for doing that with Alfie and giving Alfie a voice on a very important time in our year, but also a very important conversation that has to happen.
Well, and I think, it's up to us now to sort of walk the walk. We said this shouldn't be a conversation we just have once a year. And finding out that Alfie knows Devin Buffalo, whose story, to be perfectly honest, I didn't know. I wouldn't have known, except Sportsnet did a really nice piece on his path and what he's doing now. That raised my awareness about a goalie who had incredible success at the NCAA level and is now giving back. And so as soon as we finished the interview, I reached out to Alfie to get a contact. And so we're going to try and do our best here to make sure this isn't just a once a year conversation here, and that some of those stories get told, especially when they involve goaltenders, here on the In Goal Radio podcast.
Ballet and skating and dealing with the injustices that occurred in the past. It was a wide-ranging conversation, and one that you might want to listen to again, just to get the full depth of it, to make sure that we are doing our part. On the subject of skating, throwing the tires out, that's awesome. That's old school.
Well, and and you heard me talk about it in the interview. It really revisits the theme we've hit a lot this summer. Is credit to Dan Stewart for his voice at the Hockey Canada goalie coach. Well, I guess not just goalie coaches, because we had Andre Tournier on there as well, Arizona Coyotes head coach, but the coaches panel about the importance of not just working on your crease movement patterns, of getting out there and working those edges. And then Mike Smith about how important that is to puck handling and getting out. And so really fascinating to me, not just to hear that, this is something Alfie works on with the tires at the University of Maine, where he's turning out great goaltenders like Jeremy Swayman, who's off to another nice start in the preseason with the Boston Bruins, but that it's something he looks for as a scout. Like, the ability to get out there and skate and stop pucks, and you don't have to be flinging it up the ice a million miles an hour and leading breakouts, but just getting out there and moving like that and stopping pucks. There is one of the first things that an NCAA scout is looking for at a showcase at the junior level. And so for all those goalies who are still going, yeah, I know it makes sense, but I just want to work on my crease movement patterns. I don't want to go out there and do, figure eights or crossovers. That's not what I do as a goalie. Guess what? Like, that is going to matter, and it could matter in how you're assessed from a goalie coach that could make a decision on your future and whether it involves the NCAA. So I thought that really jumped out to me, on top of obviously all the other stuff.
Being nimble. I love the word nimble.
Yeah, I can barely, like most things, marbles in my mouth, I can barely say the word nimble, let alone be it.
You mentioned earlier in the episode Brian DeCord's app. What did you like about it, David?
Especially as we listened to Alfie talk about scouting, it had me thinking again about Brian DeCord's app, SIG Game Day. I've had a few people reach out and wonder how they get a hold of it. Obviously, we linked it on the show last week, but if you go to the Apple App Store, SIG Game Day, I've had a chance to experiment with it a little bit. Generally, I do not track my own son's games because I'm probably too nervous to be doing anything else but watch him. But I did use it once for one of his games this week and for 2 or 3 other goaltenders over the past week. There was a bit of a learning curve because there's so many different shot types that you're tracking. However, after I'd say about 3 games, it became a pretty smooth process for me. Here's what I just loved about it, guys. Every time I've heard Woody talk about expected goals and the various models around expected goals, I've thought to myself, I wish as a parent I could do the same thing for my child. And it became very clear why I wanted to do that. And Brian's app makes that possible because last weekend, just ahead of having a fantastic junior performance, Maddie had a bit of a tough game in U18. And I know that he would have come out of that game really upset normally. He would have not been too talkative for about half a day because he's such a competitive young man. I pulled out the results from Brian's app, and it showed that he'd actually outperformed the expected goals on the game by almost a full goal, which, listening to Woody talk about some of these other models, is actually a fantastic performance for a single game. And soon as he saw the level of the different shots, and guys, it's objective because there's a model for exactly how you track these things, that relieved the pressure right away. And it didn't mean he didn't care about the ones that went in, but then you could go from being upset about the loss to just focusing in, what can I do next week to be a little bit better and still feeling good about yourself. So I just love the app, and I'm going to the best that I can, I'm going to keep using it. So thanks to Brian for making that possible for parents and coaches.
Can you bring it to my beer league games, Hutch?
If you have one when I'm over there, Woody, I would love to, as long as we're allowed to publish it.
I'm trying to imagine Woody.
Can you imagine being that guy?
I don't think I could keep up with tracking
folks,
a beer league game, though.
I am joking. You'd
need video to track the 70 or 80 shots he probably faces in a night, because I don't think I could keep up with it.
Woody's got his phone strapped to the middle bar on the net, and every time the puck leaves the zone, he's turning around, taking off his glove, and tapping in what kind of shot it was that he faced, and ends up getting scored on because he's putting data in.
Or and waving at the glass. Waving at the glass. Honey, that was a grade A. Make sure you track it as a grade A.
Hey.
No, forget honey. I'm taking it to the scorekeeper after to show him how many shots he missed. And yes, they do track shots in my league. And yes, it's kind of hilarious.
Oh, that's
and no, my numbers are terrible. Thank you very much.
We'll link everything in the show notes for you, including the Orange Jersey Project. And when you go to that website, there's some incredible information detailed, and I just think it's great. The idea is to give out some orange jerseys to kids and have them ask the coach, "Why are we wearing an orange jersey?" And then it just generally starts the conversation in a very natural sense, and makes you aware of it through your own curiosity.
And a lot of people may look at these types of things and look at like the orange jerseys and the orange shirt day, and and wonder why we're doing all this. And I'm going to point to Bo Horvat, captain of the Vancouver Canucks, in an answer he gave last week, because they've done some orange jersey, orange shirt days. It's that conversation that we just had. It's him doing the research. It's me being shocked to hear that Alfie, who's a guy who has a similar age to me, actually went, to a residential school. It's a different situation, but went to a residential school, that they existed. It's about learning about that history. And Bo talked quite eloquently this past week about how everything that happened gave him the impetus to do some research, to go look and really understand that history. And I think that's what this is about, is an education process of what happened, and that there is a need for some reconciliation once we acknowledge that truth.
and seek out the conversations. Don't be hesitant to do that. And the three of us, white Caucasian backgrounds, are not the ones to be giving advice by any means. But we are the ones that have to go out and have the conversations with people who have experienced it and of the First Nations background and heritage. So we will attempt to heed our own advice, and we challenge each other to do that. And we encourage you to follow suit. Thanks to Alfie Michaud. Incredible discussion. Keep going back to the part about where he has those exchanges with his wife, and she's not First Nations, and the back and forth, and how he was frustrated but has to remember. And it's real for everybody. And thank you to Alfie. Thank you for Cam at the Hockey Shop as well for continued support. The Hockey Shop source for sports Surrey, and Sense Arena VR for David Hutchison, and for Maddie Hutchison's dad and Kevin Woodley. I'm Darren Millard. Thanks for listening to In Goal Radio, the podcast.